Yeah, I'm developing a form. In this form, I'm having some text fields and I'm having a button. So when this button is clicked, I want to call this a servlet. That servlet is a book servlet. What is the responsibility of this servlet now? Here, I'm going to develop a form with three fields, right? So ID is one field and name is one field and price is one field. Three text fields are available and one submit button also will be available. ID, name and price. This is one text field, another text field and another text field, and this is my button. So whenever I click on this submit button, I want to execute my servlet. Here my servlet program will be available. This servlet program will use JDBC and it is going to communicate with the database table. Here my database table is available. This is my DB table and this is my servlet. Okay, servlet is internally talking to JDBC program. Here my JDBC program will be available. Servlet will talk to this JDBC and this JDBC will talk to database, right? User entering the data in the form, and the user clicking on submit button. When a user click on that submit button, the request will go to my servlet. What the servlet program is doing? Servlet is going to talk to our JDBC. JDBC will talk to database. All right. So now here, end user is available. End user is clicking on that submit button. So end user is using a browser. By using this browser, he will enter the data in the form and he will click on submit button. When he click on the submit button, request should go to my servlet. How the request will go to servlet from the web page? Action attribute. For the form we have written action. What is the meaning of that action? Here action represents which is servlet you want to execute. Right. Action is equal to book servlet. Here three text fields are available and one submit button is available. The moment you click on the submit, the request will go to book servlet. Now let me create one servlet program, resources, new class. I'm going to create a package and here I'm creating a servlet with a name called book servlet. Now, how to create a servlet, guys? How many ways are there to create a servlet? There are three ways available. One is by implementing servlet interface. Second one, extending generic servlet. Third one, by extending HTTP servlet. Now here, I'm going to extend the properties from HTTP servlet. Okay. Extending the properties from HTTP servlet, I'm importing the package. I want to map this servlet to URL pattern. How to map the servlet to URL pattern? By using one annotation, that is @web servlet. @web servlet annotation is available. I will give the URL pattern as book servlet. @web servlet, I'm giving the URL pattern as a book servlet. All right. Now here, form is going to submit. End user is going to submit that form. Now I want to capture that form data. So as of now, we know do get method. First, let me write the do get method and I will show you what is the problem with the do get, why we should not use the do get. So now I am going to write the do get method. Can you tell me the syntax for the do get method? Public void do get. What are the parameters? HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet request, request comma, HTTP servlet response, HTTP servlet response, response. All right, fine. I'm trying to override this do get method. Inside this do get method, first I need to capture the data from the form. So user is going to submit the data in the form. User will enter the data in the form. User will submit the form. When user is submitted that form, I need to get the form data in my servlet. Request object will come, response object will come. Form data will come in the request object. Do you know how to capture the data from the request object? How to capture data from the request object? To capture the data from the request, we will use request dot get parameter key. What is that key? Here you see what is the name I am giving? Book ID. So here by using this, we need to capture that value. Request dot get parameter of name book ID. So request dot get parameter. What is the purpose of request dot get parameter, guys? To capture the data from the request object. End user entering the data in the form and click on submit button. That form data will go to servlet in the request object. From the request object, I want to get that value. What is the return type? What is the return type? String. I am getting the book ID. Similarly, I want to get the book name also. How to get the book name? Same pattern. String book name is equal to request dot get parameter of book name. Request dot get parameter of book name. Perfect. Next one, string book price. Request dot get parameter of book price. So like this, I'm trying to capture the data from form by using these three variables. Sir, price is a number now. Why we are getting as a string? Whenever we are transferring the data from one place to another place, from one system to another system, that will go in the form of a string only. Over a network, the data will transfer in the form of string only. After receiving the data to the servlet, we need to convert that data into required format. Now, browser will be available in one system, server will be running in the another system. When client is entering the data in the form and when client is submitting that form data will go to the server. Inside the server, our servlet is available. Whatever the form data we enter, that form data will go to the server in the string format only. After getting the string data, we need to convert the data into required format. Number I want to convert into this number type, integer type or long type. String dot long dot parse long. Book ID I am getting in the integer format. I mean string format. I need to convert that into integer value. Book ID should be converted to integer format. Book price should be converted to double value. So who is responsible for the typecasting here? Programmer is responsible to perform that typecasting. Are you guys getting my point? We need to convert that value into required data type format. Now, first let me print it. Really, are we able to capture the data from the form or not? System.out.println of book ID, system.out.println of book name, and system.out.println of book price. First of all, our form data is coming to the server or not, we need to understand that. Book price. Okay. Now I am going to get response dot get writer, which is going to give me print writer object. I'm calling response dot get writer throws exception. Okay. Go to do get. Throws IO exception. Perfect. So response dot get writer, it is giving, sir, today my typing is little slow because it is new keyboard. I need to habituate to that. Print writer and print writer dot append form submitted. Form submitted. Now print writer dot append form submitted. What is the exception? Configure build path. There are so many issues. I think there is a problem with the IDE, guys. This IDE not supporting for Java 1.8 also. Compiler. It is supporting up to 1.6 only. I need to download one more IDE. No, I think this IDE is very old IDE, guys. Download Eclipse for JEE, na? You can add the developer version. Okay. This one? This one only, na? This is exe file. Install करना पड़ेगा. I'm downloading once again, guys. The IDE which I downloaded, it is very old. I did not install, just I have downloaded. No need to uninstall. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, guys. Yeah. Someone gave the link here. The same thing I'm downloading, guys. JWID. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, we can use that also. STS is easy. Yeah. Which IDE I gave you? STS. It's taking a lot of time to download. Anything is fine, but it's taking long time to download. That is the problem. Hmm? Again, I need to remove all these things and set up. That is the problem. Yep. Fine, guys. So let me tell you some theoretical point for today then. It is not supporting for that. It will download some of them. The thing is, guys, so how you guys developed your program? Let's check here. Public class, something like book servlet. What we have done? Extends HTTP servlet. So inside this servlet class, we have written the logic to capture book data. How we are capturing the book data? By using this get mapping. So do get method we are using inside the servlet. What is the purpose of this do get method, guys? What is the purpose of this do get method? It is used to capture the data from the request. It is used to capture the data from the request. Now, fine. After capturing the data from the request, we are just printing the data on the console and we are sending the response to browser. But actually, what is our requirement? Is our requirement only to capture the data, or we need to insert in the database also? We need to insert in the database also. Do you know how to insert the data in the database? Yeah, how? JDBC. So where we are writing that JDBC code? Where we are writing that JDBC code? Inside the servlet. Here what we are going to do? We are going to write now, simple. So this is my IDE. In this IDE, we are going to write database logic also. Insert into DB table. Insert into DB table. Here we are capturing the data from database. Capture from form. Even my brain is also not working. Capture the data from the form. After capturing the data from the form, we need to insert the data into database. To insert the data into database, we need to write the database logic here. Can you tell me the database logic now? Driver manager dot get connection. We need to pass URL, username, and password. It is going to give us connection object. It is going to give us connection object. We will store that into connection variable. Driver manager dot get connection, URL, username, password. You can go for connection pooling also. Hikari connection pool we are going to use to get the connection. For example, we will add that. Okay, we'll see. Java.sql.connection. Now I have taken connection object. Once this connection is ready, next we need to create the statement. So statement or prepared statement? Statement or prepared statement? Prepared statement. Why prepared statement? Why prepared statement? Dynamic value. So from where we are getting the data? Data coming from the form UI. Now I need to take that data and I need to insert into table. For that we need to prepare a query. String SQL is equal to insert into books values 3 positional parameters. Insert into book values 3 positional parameters. This is my query. Now how to execute this query? How to execute this query, guys? In order to execute this query, I need prepare statement object. Con dot prepare statement. Con dot prepare statement. Here it is taking some error. Con dot prepare statement. Yeah, we are going to pass that SQL event. Database also not there. Just I'm writing the code. Right? Con dot prepare statement. I'm giving that SQL query. What it is going to return? What it is going to return, guys? It is going to return prepared statement object. Prepared statement PSTMT is equal to con dot prepare statement. Once I got the prepared statement object, then what is the next step? What is the next step? we need to set the parameters for that. How to set the parameters? PSTMT dot set int of 1 comma book ID. But how I received book ID from the form? Book ID we received in the form of string, but in the database it is a number. So what I need to do? I need to convert that value to integer. Integer dot parse int of book ID. I received string value. Whenever we submit the form data will go to the server in the string format. I am converting that string value to integer value by using integer dot parse int. And next one, PSTMT dot set string. For that too, I'm going to pass book name. Name is a string. In the database also it is a varchar. So directly I can set that value. And I have taken the book price. How I have taken the book price? From the form, we got that value in the string format. But in the database, price is a decimal value. How to convert the string to decimal? PSTMT dot set double of 3 comma book price. Directly it is not possible. I need to convert that into double value. How to do that? Double dot parse double of book price, like this. We are going to set all the 3 values to positional parameters. After setting the 3 values to positional parameters, what is the next step? We need to execute that query. Is it a select query or it is a non-select query? It is a non-select query. How to work with a non-select query? PSTMT dot execute update. PSTMT dot execute update. What is the return type of this? Integer count. That count represents how many rows are affected. System dot out dot println number of rows affected. Just for our understanding purpose. System dot out dot println rows affected. Rows affected. 1 minute. Count. Next one. PSTMT close. Then we are going to close the connection. Perfect. So this is our JDBC and servlet integration program. I think, let me check my IDE. Guys, I need to install database also in this system. I will do that. And I need to make this system ready. This one? Okay. I will create a new project. I will just copy that code. Create a dynamic project. Yeah, create a dynamic project option is available. Project name, I'm going to keep it as a book web application. I'm going to select it as 3.0 and click on next, web.xml, click on finish. Okay, my book web application got created. Java resource, build, main, web app. Yeah, everything is fine. So project is created. Now let me add the server also here. New server, which is a Tomcat 9.0. Click on next, browse. Where is the Tomcat server? In the downloads folder. Downloads, Apache Tomcat. Yep. Click on finish. Tomcat server is also added. All right. Next, let me create one Java class. Already I created here. Let me just take this package and let me copy that package here. Delete it. New class, book servlet. Yeah. Whatever the code I have done here, I will take this code. Fine. Exceptions are coming because of build path. Let me close this old IDE. Yeah, I need to set the build path for the jar file. Right click, build path, configure build path. Yeah, what? Yeah, this is the new one, right? Yeah, perfect. Go to build path, configure build path, libraries, add external jars, lib folder, servlet-api.jar, apply and close. Now refresh the project clean. Yes, now let me import the packages. HTTP servlet. All the packages I have imported. For time being, let me comment this JDBC code, guys, because we don't have the database installed. Okay, so first let me take out this code for time being. Let me keep this code outside of this program. We don't need that now. I will keep it here. Later I will use that code. Right, perfect. As of now, just my servlet is available. This servlet is responsible to capture the data from the form. So request.get parameter, my servlet program, I need to create a file that is index.html. Previously I have created that. Let me copy that. In the workspace, web app, web content, index.html. Let me keep that in the web app, index.html. So in the index.html form action book servlet, book ID. So let me give you a break tag, book ID, book name, and book price. Fine, this is my form, index.html, web.xml. So what is the purpose of this web.xml? Here welcome file list will be available. If I configure multiple welcome file list, what will happen internally? First one will be identified. Okay, right click, refresh. My server is also available. Let me run my project, run on server. So what is my servlet URL pattern? It is book servlet. What is the action? Book servlet. Perfect. Right click, run on server, Tomcat, next, finish. Okay, allow the access. My application is running in the servlet now. When my servlet is running inside the server, let us see. It is opening by default in the browser. It is, can I call it as a welcome page of our application? Yeah, welcome page is open for our application. What is the welcome page? Index.html. So what is available in the index.html? What is available in the index.html? A form is available. The form is having 3 fields and 1 button. When I click on that button, form will be submitted. What is the action available? Book servlet. What is this book servlet? Can I call it as a address of the servlet? Yes, it is address of my servlet. So inside the servlet, which method is available? Do get method is available. What happened to old laptop? So I have a do get method. What is the purpose of this do get method? What is the purpose of do get method, guys? It is used to handle request and response object. So by using this request, I am calling get parameter. What is the purpose of request dot get parameter? What is the purpose of request dot get parameter? It is used to capture that form data. What I am doing after capturing the form data, I'm just printing on the console. If we are able to capture the form data, then we will see how to submit that data to the database also. Let us go to our browser, enter some value 1 Java price some 100, something like this. Book ID, book name, and book price. So do we have anything on the console now? Let me clear that console. Console is clear. Now let me click on submit. What it is saying that form submitted. Can you see the console? Are we able to get the data? Yes, we are able to get the data. But observe the URL. Can you observe the URL? Can you observe that URL? What happened in the URL? Book servlet question mark book ID is equal to 1 and book name is equal to Java and book price is equal to 100. So what is happening there? Whatever the data that you submit, that data is appending to the URL and sending to the server in the request object. So is it recommended approach or it is not recommended approach? Not recommended approach. Why? Our data is exposed in the URL. Our data is exposed in the URL. Now, I don't suppose if I have username, password, email ID, date of birth, whatever the password you enter, that password also will display in the URL. So is it recommended to append our form data to the URL? Is it recommended to append the form data to the URL? Not recommended. But why the form data is appending to the URL? The reason is we are sending a get request from the browser. Now here in my browser, I have a form. And when I click on the submit button, by default, browser is sending a get request to the server. When server send a get request, whatever the form data is available, form data will be appended to the URL and will go to the server. Server is capturing that form data from the URL by using request.get parameter. I submitted the second information. Yeah, guys, just note down the diagram. Online people, just note down the diagram. Completed the diagram? Yeah. End user will enter the data in the form. End user will enter the data in the form. End user will enter the data in the form. End user will enter the data in the form. End user will enter the data in the form. We need to capture form data. We need to capture form data. We need to capture form data using servlet. We need to capture form data using servlet. End user will enter the data in the form. We need to capture form data by using servlet, and we need to insert into database table using JDBC. We need to insert into database table using JDBC. End user will enter the form data and we'll click on submit. We need to capture form data by using servlets, and we need to insert the data into database by using JDBC. Right. Note, when user submit the form by default, when user submit the form by default, when user submit the form, when user submit the form by default, browser will consider that as a GET request. When user submit the form by default, browser will consider that as GET request. When user submit the form by default, browser will consider that as GET request. Browser will consider that as GET request. Note, GET request is used to get the data from the server. Note, GET request is used to get the data from the server. GET request is used to get the data from the server. Hence, GET request will not contain request body. GET request is used to get the data from the server. Hence, GET request will not contain request body. Hence, GET request will not contain request body. Are you guys able to understand this? So user will enter the data in the form and the user will click on submit button. So when user click on the submit button, browser is considering that as a GET request or POST request. By default, browser considering that as a GET request. When browser consider that as a GET request, for GET request, request body will not be available. We discussed about request structure, request line, header, blank line, body. Body will not be available for the GET request. Why HTTP did not give the body for the GET request? What is the purpose of the GET request? What is the purpose of the GET request? GET request is used to get the data from the server. It is not meant for sending the data. It is not meant for sending the data. It is meant for getting the data. That's why request body will not be available for the get request. So when the body is not available, how browser will send this form data to the server? How browser will send this form data to the server? By the URL. So that is the reason when I submit this form, by default, my form data is appending in the URL. By default, our form data is appended to the URL. Can you see? Whatever the data we enter, that data is appended to the URL. So is it recommended to append the form data to the URL? For example, it is a registration page. You are sitting beside me. I have entered my username, password, and email ID, date of birth, gender. I clicked on submit button. Then what browser will do? It will show my form data in the URL. Then you can see my password also. Are you guys getting my point? So is it recommended to use get request for the form submissions? Why it is not recommended to use get request for form submissions? Because get request will not contain the request body. Get request will append the form data to the URL, which is not secured. Now here, if you want to get the data from the server, then we need to go for get request. If you want to send the data to the server, then we need to go for post request. We need to tell to the browser, please send post request to the server. How to tell to browser that send a post request to server? Here we are going to specify action is equal to book servlet, and we need to specify method is equal to post. What I need to specify, guys? Method is equal to post. What is the meaning of method is equal to post? Here my browser should submit the form to the server using post request. If I don't specify method is equal to post, by default, browser will send a get request to the server. When browser send a get request to the server, whatever the data that I'm entering, that form data will be displayed in the URL. Form data will be displayed in the URL. So I don't want to display the form data in the URL. I want to send the form data to the server secret data I want to send. If you want to send that secret data, we need to send in the request body. For get request body is available or request body not available. For get request body not available. I need to go for post request. So now here, when I'm submitting this form, what my browser is thinking, 10 I am giving, Python I am giving, and I am giving as 200. Okay, click on submit. What happened? Form submitted, and server is able to capture that form data, but form data is displaying in the URL. Form data displaying in the URL because it is a get request. There is no body, but the form data should be sent to the server. Browser taken the form data, appended to the URL and sent it to the server. Server side request object is created. This form data stored into request object. That request object is sent to servlet. My servlet taking the data from the request object. How to take the data from the request object? Request.get parameter. But can you see any disadvantage in this approach? What is the disadvantage in this approach? Form data is appended to URL. Is there any problem? Security problem. Our passwords also will display in the URL. So form we need to submit with the get request, or form we need to submit with the post request. Form we need to submit with the post request. How to tell to browser to submit the form with the post request? Method is equal to post. When I give method is equal to post, my browser will send a post request to the server. Which method is used to handle the post request? Do get or do post? We need to go for do post. Instead of do get method, I will write a do post method. What is the purpose of do post method? What is the purpose of do post method? It is used to handle post request sent by the browser. So if I don't specify method is equal to post, browser will send by default get request. But I want to send a post request. I will specify method is equal to post. To handle the post request, I am writing do post method. Now let me stop my server. Let me submit this once again. Clear my console, refresh our application, right click, run as Java application or run on server. Run on server. So click on finish. Yeah, I'm running on the server. Welcome page is opened. Now observe carefully. Book ID, book name, book price. Go to console, see the console, clear the console. No message available in the console. Click on submit. Wow. Data appended to URL or not appended to URL? Not appended to URL. But data sent to the server or not sent to the server? Check it. Am I able to capture the data? Yes, I'm able to capture the data by using do post method also. I'm printing the data on the console. Are you clear with my point? Yeah, make a note. When we are dealing with the form submissions, when we are dealing with the form submissions, we need to go for post request. When we are dealing with form submissions, we need to use post request to send form data to the server in the request body. When we are dealing with form submissions, we need to send post request to server. When we are dealing with form submissions, we need to use post request. When we are dealing with the form submissions, we need to use post request to send form data to server. In request body. When we are dealing with form submissions, we need to use the post request to send form data to server in the request body. Right. Now, to submit a post request, we need to use method is equal to post. To submit a post request, we need to use method is equal to post. Yeah, take this form. We need to use method is equal to post. Do get and do post methods. If I don't specify method is equal to post, what will happen? By default, it is a get request. What is the problem with the get request? Form data will go to server in the URL. Security concerns. So that's why when we are dealing with the form submissions, we need to go for post request. So how to specify to browser send a post request? Method is equal to post. Then it will send the post request to the server. When we have the post request, servlet should contain do post method. Yeah, note down this. Form action is equal to book servlet, method is equal to post. Huh? Number, then it will accept only number. It will not take characters. Completed? So what is the purpose of method is equal to post? What is the purpose of method is equal to post, guys? To send a post request to the server. What is the advantage of sending post request to the server? What is the advantage? Form data will go to server in the request body. By using get request, can I send the data in the request body? No. Why? Get request is not meant for sending the data. That is the reason body will not be available for get request. When you use get request, data will go to server in the URL. So if you want to send confidential data, huge amount of data, then you need to go for post request only. So method is equal to post will send a post request to the server. Form data will go to server in the request body. All right. Next note. When we are sending a post request to the server, when we are sending post request to the server, when we are sending post request to the server, we need to have, when we are sending post request to servlet, when we are sending post request to servlet, when we are sending post request to servlet, we should have do post method. We should have do post method to handle post request. We should have do post method. We should have do post method to handle post request. Completed. Yeah. When to go for do get method, when to go for do post method. Do get method is used to handle get request. Get request is used to access the data. Do post method is used to handle post request. So whenever we have a form submission, then we need to go for post request. Yeah, note down this program. Do post method. You no need to write this SOP. It is just for our understanding whether data is coming from the form or not. Instead of taking the data from the keyboard, we are taking the data from the web page now. Write that do post method. So guys, you understand the difference between get request and post request, when to go for get request, when to go for post request. So when to go for get request, when to go for post request. Come on guys, when to go for get request, when to go for post request. When you are dealing with the form submissions, we need to go for post request. When you are retrieving the data, then we should go for get request. So get request will not have the body, post request will contain the body. So form submissions, we need to deal with the post request. When we are dealing with a post request, we need to write do post method. What is the difference between do get method and a do post method? What is the difference between do get method and do post method? Do get method is used to handle get request. Do post method is used to handle post request. Perfect. What is the purpose of request.get parameter? Request.get parameter is used to capture the form data and any data which is coming in the request. All right. So we are able to capture the form data and we are going to insert into database. So do you know how to insert the record into database table? Yeah, how to insert the record into database table? By using JDBC logic. Can you tell me the JDBC logic? Can you tell me the JDBC logic? Connection, we need to get the connection. To get the connection, what we are going to use? Driver manager dot get connection. So we need to supply URL and we need to supply username and password. What is the return type of this one? What is the return type of this one? It is going to return connection object. It is going to return connection object. Now, once we get the connection object, then we need to create the statement or prepare statement or callable statement. I want to insert the record. So statement is recommended or prepare statement is recommended. Prepare statement is recommended. Why? Because dynamic values we need to insert. So string SQL is equal to insert into book values. 3 values. So 3 positional parameters I'm going to take. 3 positional parameters I'm going to take. Next one. I want to execute this query. How to execute this query? Come on guys. Con dot prepare statement by passing SQL query. So what is the return type? It is going to return prepared statement, which is PST-empty. Prepare statement object will be created. Once the prepare statement object is created, then what we need to do? Set the values, because my query is having 3 values. I need to set the data for these 3 values before inserting the record. Can you tell me how to set that? PST-empty dot set int of 1 comma book ID. I got the data from the form in the string format, but here it is a integer in the database. How to deal with that? I need to write integer dot parseInt of that book ID. Next one, PST-empty dot set string of 2 comma book name. It is a string value directly I can set. PST-empty dot set double. So 3 comma I can go for book price. I have in the string format. How can I do that? Double dot parse double of book price. Double dot parse double of book price. I'm setting the data for this price. So I am setting the data for my prepared statement object. Then what is the next step? Execute the query. PST-empty dot execute update. PST-empty dot execute update. Then I need to go for PST-empty dot close and I need to go for connection dot close. PST-empty dot close and connection dot close. So I'm closing. Here, this JDBC logic is giving some exception. So I'm going to write them in the try catch block. Right? Try catch block we are going to use to handle that exception. All right. So now let me take this, whatever the JDBC logic is available, keep that logic in this try block. Keep that logic inside this try block. E dot print stack trace. E dot print stack trace. So this is going to insert a record into database table. After inserting the record into database table, I need to send a success message to the client. So what is the success message I'm going to send to the client? Record is inserted or form is submitted. Like this, I'm writing my servlet. Inside the servlet, I'm writing the logic to capture form data. Whatever the form data I have captured, that form data I'm inserting into the table by using JDBC. So are we able to integrate servlet and JDBC? Yes, we are able to integrate servlet and JDBC, but writing the code like this is not recommended. Why it is not recommended? Form capturing logic, database insertion logic, we are writing in the single class only. So maintenance wise, it is not recommended. In the real time, we are going to write servlet in one class, JDBC logic in the another class. Why? Because maintenance will become easy if you separate the logics. Simple example, you are constructing one house. Will you construct one single big room? What you will do? You will divide into rooms. Partitioning you are going to do. Similarly, when we are writing the code, we should not write all the lines of code in the single program. Here, servlets is available, JDBC available. Servlets and JDBC both are different. The purpose of servlet is different. The purpose of JDBC is also different. What is the purpose of servlet? It is used to develop the web application. What is the purpose of JDBC? To communicate with the database. My web application should communicate with the database also. Here, what I am doing is, inside the servlet, I am capturing the data from the form and I am inserting the data into database table. 100% this code will work. I need to pass username, password and URL, and I need to install database in this system. Database is not available. All right. If database is installed, program will work. But in the real time, this code is accepted or this code is not accepted? Not accepted. Why this code is not accepted? I have combined everything in the single program. We need to separate the servlet program and we need to separate our JDBC program. Are you guys clear with my point? Those are called as best practices. Those are called as best practices. We need to follow best practices while developing the code. Sir, what is that best practice we need to follow while developing the code is, here we need to create a servlet program. This servlet is responsible to capture the form data. We need to write a separate class for the database logic. Then that class is going to communicate with the database. Here our form is available. Like this, we need to divide our application into multiple programs so that maintenance will become easy. That is called as layered architecture. In the future, we are going to understand what is layered architecture, what is MVC, what is MVC design pattern. Lot of stuff will come into picture. From now onwards, we will try to habituate how to write the code with the industry standard. Now, here our form is available. Here our form is available. This is my servlet. This is my servlet. Now, inside the servlet, what we need to do? Take data. Take data. Call JDBC program. Call JDBC program. Call JDBC class. Call JDBC program. So like this, we need to divide our logic into multiple programs. Here guys, this is our class. Which class it is? JDBC class. So now inside this JDBC class, logic to perform DB operation. Logic to perform DB operation, and this is my actual database. This is my actual database. So the classes which are going to communicate with the database, right here, there is a class which is going to communicate with the database. My servlet class will communicate with this class. My form will talk to this servlet. So this is our project. This is one project. Database is a separate software. End user will send a request to form. Now request will come to the form, and from here response will be available. So this is called as request and this is called as response. All right. Sir, what is this class called as? JDBC class, which contains logic of JDBC. What is the purpose of this logic? To communicate with the database. So in this class, we can write the logic to insert the data. We can write the logic to retrieve the data. So here in the real time, the classes which are containing the database logic, those classes are called as DAO classes. What is that, guys? We are going to call as DAO class. So what is the meaning of DAO class? Data access object class. What is that class is called as? Data access object. DAO. DAO stands for data access object. The class which is responsible only to perform the database operation, that class is called as a DAO class. Now we can combine servlet program, JDBC program into single class. We will get the output, but that is not recommended. In the real time, we will never write the JDBC logic in the servlet program. JDBC logic will be available in the DAO class. What is the meaning of DAO? DAO stands for data access object. DAO classes contains only JDBC programs, right? That means the DAO will contain the logic only to communicate with the database. Then what servlet is doing? Servlet will capture the data from the form. Servlet will give the data to DAO. DAO will insert the data into database. This is the recommended approach. Are you guys getting my point? So can I combine JDBC logic in the servlet? Yes, we can do it. We can do it. But recommended or not recommended? Not recommended. Where we need to write the database communication logic? Inside the DAO. What is the DAO? Data access object. Now, in the real time, for every database table, one DAO class will be created. Suppose we are going to communicate with the books table. So in the project, we will create a class with a name called booksdao.java. Booksdao class will contain the methods to communicate with the books table. It may be inserting the book, updating the book, deleting the book, or retrieving the book. Suppose I have employee table. Then what we will do? Employee DAO.java. One table will contain one DAO. One DAO will contain all the methods to perform the operations with the single table. Suppose in my project, 100 tables are available. Then what we will do? 100 DAO classes we are going to create. One DAO will contain the methods to perform operations with only one table, because easy maintenance. But tomorrow you will leave the company. I will join in your position. So there is some problem with the book records. Where I need to check that code? Directly I will check in the book DAO. For example, 100 servlets available. In the servlets only you have written the JDBC logic also. New team member joined in the project. How new team member will understand where is the logic to insert the record into book table? He need to search all the classes. That is recommended, or this is recommended? This is recommended. Tomorrow in my project, in the address table, data not inserting properly. Where I need to check the problem? Address DAO. Directly we will have a class to communicate with the table. That is the industry standard. In the real time, for every database table, one DAO class will be created. Servlet program will capture the form data, will call to DAO method. DAO methods will communicate with the database. So from now onwards, we need to separate our servlet program and our JDBC program. Servlet is one class, DAO is another class. One class can talk to another class. Can one class talk to another class? How many ways one class can talk to another class? 2 ways. By using inheritance, by creating the object. So now inside the servlet class, I need to call the DAO class method. Can I call that? By creating object, can I call that? Yes. Can you implement that requirement in this style? Understand? Yeah. Make a note. Make a note. Database communication logic we can write in the servlet class also. Database communication logic, database communication logic, database communication logic we can write in the servlet class also. Database communication logic we can write in the servlet class also, but it is not recommended. Database communication logic we can write in the servlet class also, but it is not recommended. Database communication logic we can write in the servlet also, but it is not recommended. Next point. To write the database communication logic, to write the database communication logic, to write the database communication logic, we will create, to write the database communication logic, we will create, to write the database communication logic, we will create DAO classes. Database communication logic we can write in the servlets also, but it is not recommended. To write the database communication logics, we are going to create DAO classes. Next point. DAO stands for data access object. DAO stands for data access object. DAO stands for data access object. Note, DAO classes should contain, DAO classes should contain only database communication logics. DAO classes should contain only database communication logics. Next point. For every database table, one DAO class should be created. For every database table, one DAO class should be created. Suppose, see here, if I have a books table, I will create books DAO. If I have books table, I will create books DAO. If I have users table, then I will create users DAO. Users DAO. If I have student table, then I will create student DAO. Like this. DAO you can keep in the capital letters also or in the lowercase also. DAO, these are in the industry, people will call them as DAO classes. DAO classes nothing but DAO classes. DAO classes nothing but database communication. That is one standard people will follow in the project. Writing a separate class is called as a layer. This is a layer. We can say that I will explain in the MVC architecture. So already we are writing that now. Layer nothing but separate. In the house, we will construct several rooms partitioning, right? Those are called as layers. Here also, form capturing logic we are writing in the servlet. Database logic we are writing in the DAO. So DAO layer nothing but a separate class we are creating to communicate with the database. That separate class is called as one layer. Web layer, DAO layer. Web layer means servlet, which is containing the logic to accept the request, send the response. DAO layer contains the logic to communicate with the database. In future, business layer will come. That means I want to send an email, I want to send one OTP, I want to generate Excel report, I want to generate PDF report. That logic we will not write in the servlet, we will not write in the DAO. That is the business logic. So between the servlet and DAO, business layer will come. That is the next level. When we are going to develop a project, we will understand that. I will teach you how to export the data to Excel sheet, how to export the data to PDF file. That layer is called as a business layer. We will discuss in the project development. Are you clear as of now? What is a DAO? Yeah. Why we need to go for DAO? Why we need to go for DAO? To separate the database communication logic from the servlet. But generally, when you are learning first time, people will write the database logic in the servlet. So servlet is used to capture the data immediately after the logic. Now you see in my program what I have done. I have written servlet program. Inside that servlet program, I'm capturing the form data. That form data here only I'm inserting into database. Is it recommended or not recommended? Not recommended. Why? Because both logics I'm keeping in the single class. Tomorrow, when I change something in the servlet logic, my database logic may affect. If I change something in the database logic, my servlet logic will affect. Always we need to separate them. Keep them as independent. DAO layer, servlet layer. Servlet layer is called as a web layer. Database communication logic is called as a DAO layer. Now, when user submit the form, request will go to servlet. What is servlet doing now? Servlet will capture the form data. After capturing the form data, what that servlet program should do? Give the data to the DAO layer class method. Servlet should call the DAO class method by giving the data. Then the DAO class should insert the data into database table. So can you develop that given requirement in this style? Yeah, take this diagram. Take this diagram. One class method should call another class method. That's it. Servlet class do post method should call DAO class method. That is the requirement. All right. Completed the diagram. Yeah. So guys, next week from 8th, 11:30 Oracle. Actually, it is supposed to start on the 4th, right? Today, I think it has to start. It is going to start from 8th. From Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Oracle offline class will be available. Shekhar sir is going to take that class. And the Hibernate also will be taken care by Shekhar sir. That will start at morning 7:30. Offline plus online will be available. So to start with our module 3, Hibernate, little amount of Hibernate, which is advanced to JDBC. Shekhar sir will take the classes for the Hibernate part. Offline will be available, online will be available from February. Today I had meeting with Shekhar sir. From February 20th, morning at 7:30, that class is going to start. Yes. Early morning 7:30. Their topics will complete by that time. Oracle 11:30. 2 p.m. what? That will complete by that time, right? CSS already completed. JavaScript 2 weeks he will take. Bootstrap 10 days he will take. By February 20th, advanced Java will complete. 4 o'clock class will not be available for you. By that time, Servlets and JSP will complete. Okay, na? Yeah. Yeah, once Hibernate, at least if you are able to develop first program by using Hibernate, then we can start with the Spring Boot. I will take that part. Right. Okay, so module 3 is going to start from February 20. In the module 3, first Hibernate will start. Hibernate will take just 20 days. That it is not more than that. Just you need to know how to perform database operations. Already you know JDBC. It is advanced for the JDBC. Hibernate is advanced for the JDBC because actually in the project we are going to use the data JPA, not even Hibernate. Data JPA is part of the Spring Boot. To understand the data JPA, Hibernate is required. Right, that Hibernate basic concept is required. Yeah, right. Otherwise, our Spring Boot course will take 6 months of time if you don't know that ORM concept of Hibernate. That's why first we'll complete the prerequisite, then we will go for the Spring Boot. Okay. Yes, I will take. If I take daily 1 hour, it will take 3.5 months. If I take daily 2 hours, it will take 2.5 months. Right, mostly 2 to 2.5 months. Yeah. If I take 4 hours, it will complete in 1 month. You will not get anything. Okay, yes. So what is the task for you? What is the task for you? You need to develop the above requirement. Capture the, already we are able to capture the form data. The only thing that you need to do is insert into database. But where to write the database logic? Database logic we need to write in the DAO class. So simple. I'm giving the clue also. Create one method in the DAO class. Call that method in the servlet class. That's it. You need to create one DAO class, that is book DAO. Inside the book DAO, you need to create one method. That method will contain the JDBC logic. That method you are going to call in the servlet class. So when you submit the form, from the form request will go to servlet. Servlet will take the form data. Servlet will call the DAO method. DAO method will insert the data into database table. Can you guys do that? Is there any difficulty in that? No. Okay. So please work on this part. We have our next advanced Java class on Monday. Monday at 4 p.m. We have the next advanced Java class. All right. Fine, guys. Thank you. 1 minute. Fine, guys. Thank you. We'll see you on Monday.